You think attraction starts when you speak, but for her, it starts in silence. And most men fail before they even open their mouth. She already decided how she feels about you before you even said a word. And the scary part, you probably ruined it in the first 10 seconds without knowing why, because attraction doesn't begin with what you say. It begins with what you are when you say nothing. Most men think it's about confidence, but not the loud kind. Not the forced smile, not the rehearsed lines. It's the quiet presence, the kind that doesn't need approval. The kind that doesn't chase attention, yet somehow holds it. She won't explain this, but she feels it. When a woman sees a stranger, her mind isn't asking, "Is he nice?" It's asking something deeper, something instinctive. Does he disturb my emotional pattern or repeat it? And most men repeat it. They try too hard. They give too much too fast. They seek validation in her eyes. And in that moment, she pulls away. Not because she doesn't like you, but because you became predictable. Attraction lives in uncertainty, that slight mystery, that pause before you speak, that moment where she can't fully read you. That's where curiosity is born. And curiosity is the beginning of desire, but here's where it gets darker. When she feels that curiosity, she doesn't lean in immediately. She tests it. She might look away, act distracted, even ignore you, not because she's uninterested, but because she wants to see if you collapse under pressure. Most men do. They start over-talking, over-explaining, trying to prove something that didn't need proof. And just like that, the tension dies. Because the moment you try to convince her, you lose the very thing that attracted her. Your emotional independence. Most men lose her the moment they think they've won, because they relax into comfort when she was still exploring tension. You see, women don't fall for certainty. They fall into emotional movement, push-pull silence presence. Not games, but emotional rhythm, and the strongest signal you can send is not reacting to every signal she gives. When she feels your attention is earned, not freely given, something shifts inside her. Respect turns into intrigue. Intrigue turns into desire, but if you give everything instantly, there's nothing left to discover. And she leaves, not because you weren't good enough, but because you were too easy to understand. She won't explain this, but she feels it. That tension between wanting to know you and not fully having you, that's where attraction lives, not in showing everything, but in revealing just enough. She decides before you speak, and that's the part most men never recover from. It happens in a moment so small you can't even see it. You're just walking, standing, existing, and she looks at you. Not for long, just enough, and in that silent exchange, something inside her reacts. Not logically, not consciously, it's deeper than that. She's not thinking, asterisk, is he attractive? Asterisk, she's feeling, asterisk. How does his presence affect me? Asterisk, and that feeling comes from things you don't control the way you think you do. Your energy, your stillness, the way you hold yourself when no one is validating you. Because before your voice ever reaches her, your state already has. Most men believe they get a chance to win her over with words, but by the time you speak, she's already leaning toward you or away from you. That's why sometimes you say all the right things and she still feels distant, and other times you barely say anything yet she stays, listens, watches. She won't explain this, but she feels it. There's something about a man who isn't trying to be seen, yet is impossible to ignore. Not because he's performing, but because he's not seeking permission to exist, and she senses that instantly. Because most men, without realizing it, ask for approval the moment they enter her space, in their eyes, in their body, in the slight tension of trying to be liked. And that subtle need, it pushes her away. Not aggressively, not obviously, just enough for her to close off just a little. But when a man stands there without that need, something shifts. There's no pressure coming from him, no silent demand for validation, and that absence creates space. Space for curiosity, space for her to feel something on her own, because attraction isn't something you force into her mind. It's something that rises inside her when nothing feels forced, and this is where most men unknowingly destroy everything. They feel that moment, that tiny spark, and instead of holding it, they rush to secure it. They talk too fast. They try too hard. They break the silence that was actually working for them, and in doing that, they change how she feels. Because the man she noticed wasn't the man who started trying. He was calm, unbothered, present, but the moment he shifts into asterisk, I need to impress her, asterisk, that quiet power disappears, and she feels that loss instantly, not consciously, but emotionally. That's why she might suddenly seem less interested, even though nothing wrong happened. Because what attracted her wasn't your words. It was who you were before you tried to become someone. She decides before you speak, but she also keeps deciding with every small shift in your behavior. And the truth is, you don't need better lines. You need better control over your presence. Because the strongest impression you'll ever make on her is the version of you that isn't trying to make one at all. Attraction begins in silence, not in what you say, but in what you make her feel before a single word exists between you. There's a moment most men overlook, a quiet space right before anything happens, no introduction, no conversation. Just presence, and in that silence, something subtle starts forming inside her. She's watching, but not obviously. Sensing without thinking, the way you stand, the way you move, the way you exist when you're not trying to be seen. That's where attraction actually begins, not in your voice, not in your words, but in the emotional signal you give off when there's nothing to hide behind. Because words can be controlled, they can be practiced, polished, even faked, but silence exposes you. It reveals whether you're comfortable in your own space or quietly seeking approval. It shows whether your calm is real or just a mask waiting to break. And she feels that instantly. She won't explain this, but she feels it. That slight tension when a man is trying too hard to act normal. That invisible pressure when he's waiting for her reaction. That quiet need hiding behind a confident face. And the moment she feels that something inside her pulls back. Not dramatically, just enough because attraction doesn't grow in pressure. It grows in emotional freedom. But when a man is truly at ease in silence, something rare happens. There's no rush to fill the space, no urgency to prove anything, and that calm becomes magnetic because now she's the one who starts noticing more. Why isn't he trying? Why does he feel so steady? And without realizing it, she leans in emotionally. That's the paradox. The less you try to break the silence, the more she becomes aware of you inside it. But most men can't handle that space. Silence makes them uncomfortable. They feel like they're losing control, like they need to do something before the moment disappears. So they speak too soon, too much, too fast, and in doing that they interrupt the very thing that was building attraction. Because silence isn't empty, it's loaded with tension, with curiosity, with possibility, and when you rush to fill it, you remove all three. She was starting to feel something she couldn't explain yet, but instead of letting it grow, you replaced it with noise. And now she doesn't feel it anymore, not because you said something wrong, but because you didn't let her feel enough before you spoke. Attraction needs space to breathe. It needs that moment where she wonders, where she feels something without understanding it. That's what pulls her in, not certainty, not clarity. But that quiet question forming in her mind, asterisk, there's something about him, but I can't explain what it is. Asterisk, that feeling only exists in silence. And the strongest men don't rush to escape it. They stay there, comfortable, unshaken, not because they're waiting for something to happen, but because they don't need anything to happen. And that is what makes her feel something real. Because in a world full of men trying to be heard, the one who is calm in silence is the one she notices the most. Predictability kills curiosity, and curiosity is the only reason she stays emotionally engaged in the beginning. It doesn't happen loudly. There's no clear moment where she says, asterisk, I'm losing interest, asterisk, it's quieter than that. At first, there's something about you she can't fully read, a slight unpredictability, a feeling that you're not like the others, but she can't explain why. And that uncertainty pulls her in. She starts paying attention, not just to what you say, but to what you might do next. That's where attraction breathes, because her mind isn't bored, it's active, wondering, filling in gaps, trying to understand you, but then slowly you change, not intentionally, but subtly. You start replying faster, explaining more, showing more than she ever asked to see, and without realizing it, you remove the mystery she was attracted to. She won't explain this, but she feels it, that shift from emotional tension to emotional certainty. And certainty, in the early stages, doesn't excite her, it relaxes her, and relaxed isn't the same as attracted. Most men think consistency creates attraction, but in the beginning it often does the opposite, because when she can predict you, she no longer needs to discover you. And without discovery, there's no emotional movement. You become safe, clear, easy to understand, and ironically, that's when she starts drifting away. Not because you did something wrong, but because nothing about you challenges her emotions anymore. There's no tension left, no question, no pull, just answers she didn't even ask for. Attraction lives in uncertainty. In that space where she's not fully sure how you feel, but she feels enough to want to find out. In that slight delay, that unexpected response, that calm unpredictability that keeps her attention alive. But when you give her everything up front, there's nothing left to feel. No anticipation, no curiosity, just familiarity, and familiarity too early feels like the end of something that never even started. That's why she might still talk to you, but something is missing, the spark, the edge, that quiet excitement she felt at the beginning. Because you unknowingly turned a dynamic experience into a predictable pattern, and patterns don't create desire. They create comfort, and comfort, without emotional tension, fades fast. Most men lose her right there, not because they weren't enough, but because they became too easy to read, too available, too certain. They answered every question before she even had the chance to feel them, and the truth is, she didn't want all the answers. She wanted the experience of discovering them, that slow unfolding, that emotional build, because when she's discovering you, she's investing in you. But when she already understands you, there's nothing left to invest in, so she pulls back, not suddenly, not dramatically, just enough to create distance, and you feel it, but you don't understand it, because from your side you were doing everything right. But attraction doesn't follow logic, it follows feeling, and feelings need space, tension, and a little bit of the unknown to stay alive. That's why the most powerful thing you can do is not reveal everything at once, not respond to every moment instantly, not make yourself completely predictable. Because the moment she feels like she has you figured out is the moment she stops trying to feel you at all. And that's when the connection quietly disappears without a single word being said. She tests your emotional stability quietly, not with obvious challenges, but with moments so subtle you almost miss them. It never feels like a test. There's no warning, no clear signal that something important is happening. But it is, because when a woman feels even a slight pull toward you, she doesn't trust it immediately. She observes it. She watches how you react when things don't go perfectly. Maybe she replies late. Maybe her tone shifts. Maybe she gives you less attention than before, and in that moment, she's not pulling away randomly. She's watching what it does to you. She won't explain this, but she feels it. Does your energy stay grounded, or does it change the second she changes? Most men fail right there because they think attraction grows through more effort, so when they feel her distance, they move closer. They text more, they try harder, they seek reassurance, and without realizing it, they answer the question she was silently asking. Asterisk, is he emotionally steady or easily shaken? Asterisk, and the moment she feels that shift, something inside her closes. Not out of cruelty, but instinct, because emotional instability creates pressure, and pressure kills attraction. But when a man doesn't react immediately, when his energy stays the same calm, unbothered, present, something unexpected happens. She leans back in, not consciously, but emotionally, because now she feels something different, a kind of stability she doesn't often see. Not coldness, not indifference, but control, the ability to not be pulled into every emotional wave. That's what makes her feel safe and curious at the same time, because now she doesn't fully understand you. Why didn't he react? Why didn't he chase? And that question keeps her engaged. Attraction lives in uncertainty. But here's where most men misunderstand this completely. They think they need to play games, ignore her, act distant, pretend not to care, but she feels that too, and forced behavior feels empty. What she's actually responding to is something deeper. Your natural emotional control, the kind that isn't trying to prove anything, the kind that doesn't panic when her behavior changes. Because her tests aren't about pushing you away, they're about feeling whether you can handle emotional tension without collapsing into neediness. Because if a small shift in her behavior changes you, then she already knows something important. You're reacting to her, not leading yourself. And that removes the sense of strength she was starting to feel. But when you stay steady, when you don't rush to fix, chase, or control the moment, you create something rare. Emotional safety without losing tension, and that combination is powerful, because now she feels like she can explore her curiosity without pressure. She doesn't feel chased, but she also doesn't feel ignored. She feels space, and inside that space, her attraction grows naturally. Most men lose her in these quiet moments, not in big mistakes, but in small reactions, the double text. The sudden need for reassurance, the shift in tone that says asterisk, I'm affected by you more than I should be, asterisk, and she feels it. Even if she never says a word, because attraction isn't about perfection. It's about emotional strength under pressure. And her tests are simply moments where that strength becomes visible. You either stay grounded or you reveal that your confidence depends on her behavior. And once she sees that, the dynamic changes, because she's no longer feeling your presence, she's feeling your reaction. And reaction is predictable, but presence is powerful. She won't explain this, but she feels it. That quiet difference between a man who holds his center and a man who loses it, the moment she pulls away. And in that difference, she decides whether she leans closer or slowly disappears. Overeffort destroys natural tension, and the moment you try too hard, something inside her quietly switches off. At first, it feels right. You want to show interest. You want to make her feel special, so you give more. More attention, more time, more energy than she ever asked for, and for a brief moment it seems like it's working. She responds, she smiles, there's warmth, but then something shifts, not suddenly, not dramatically, just enough for you to feel it. Her replies slow down, her energy changes, that spark you thought was growing starts fading. And you don't understand why, because in your mind you were doing everything right, but attraction doesn't grow from effort alone. It grows from tension, and over-effort quietly kills that tension. She won't explain this, but she feels it. That subtle pressure when a man is trying to win her asterisk. That invisible weight of his attention, always there, always available. And instead of pulling her closer, it pushes her back. Because now, there's no space left for her to move toward you. You filled it all, every pause, every gap, every moment where curiosity could have grown. You replaced it with certainty. And certainty, too early, feels heavy. It removes the emotional edge. Because when she knows exactly how much you like her, when she feels that you're already invested, there's nothing left for her to explore. No tension, no question, just answers she didn't need yet. Attraction lives in uncertainty. In that quiet space where she's still figuring you out, still wondering where she stands, still feeling something she can't fully control. But when you overgive, you take that experience away from her. You make everything clear too soon. And clarity in the beginning doesn't excite her, it relaxes her, and relaxed isn't the same as emotionally pulled in. Most men think giving more creates value, but in attraction, value often comes from what you don't give immediately. Your time, your attention, your full emotional availability, not because you're holding back artificially, but because you're not rushing to give what hasn't been earned yet. There's a difference between genuine interest and emotional overflow, and she feels that difference instantly. Because genuine interest feels calm, natural, unforced, but over-effort feels like urgency, like you need something from her. And the moment she senses that the dynamic changes, you're no longer someone she's discovering. You're someone who's already chosen her without her choosing you yet, and that imbalance kills attraction. Not because she wants power, but because attraction needs mutual movement, a back and forth, a rhythm. When you move too far ahead emotionally, you break that rhythm. Now she has to either catch up or step back. And most of the time she steps back, not out of rejection, but out of instinct because something feels off. Too much, too soon. Most men lose her right here, not by doing something wrong, but by doing too much of what they thought was right. Too available, too giving, too eager to secure something that wasn't ready yet, and in that rush they destroy the very thing they were trying to build. Because attraction isn't created by force, it's created by balance, by knowing when to step forward and when to leave space. By allowing her to feel something on her own instead of overwhelming her with what you feel. She won't explain this, but she feels it. That difference between a man who is grounded in himself and a man who is trying to prove his worth through effort. And in that difference, she either leans in slowly or quietly pulls away without ever telling you why. Attraction lives in uncertainty, in that quiet space where nothing is fully clear, but everything feels alive. It's not built on knowing. It's built on wondering what you're thinking, wondering how you feel, wondering what you'll do next. That's the tension she feels but can't explain. She won't say it out loud, but she's drawn to what she can't fully predict. Because certainty is calm, but uncertainty is electric, and attraction needs that electricity. In the beginning, when she meets you, there's a natural mystery. You're not fully revealed, your intentions aren't completely obvious, and that creates movement inside her. She pays attention, she reads between your words, she feels more than what's being said. That's where attraction starts growing. Not in clarity, but in emotional curiosity. But most men can't stay in that space. They rush to define everything. They want to make their intentions clear. They want to secure her interest. They want reassurance, so they reveal too much too soon. And in doing that, they remove the uncertainty that was creating attraction. She stops wondering, and when she stops wondering, she stops feeling that pull. Because now everything is known. You like her, you're available, you're consistent. There are no questions left. And without questions, there's no emotional engagement. Attraction lives in uncertainty, in that delicate balance where she feels your interest but isn't completely sure of it, where she senses your presence but doesn't feel owned by it, where she experiences moments of connection followed by space. That space is important, because in that space her mind returns to you. She replays moments. She thinks about what you said and what you didn't say. She fills in the gaps. And those gaps are where feelings grow. But when you remove those gaps, when you respond instantly, reveal everything, and make yourself fully predictable, you take away her ability to feel. because now there's nothing left for her to process, no tension, no contrast, no emotional rhythm. Just a straight line, and straight lines don't create attraction. They create comfort, and comfort without tension fades quickly. That's why distance, when natural, can feel so powerful. Not forced distance, not games, but the kind that comes from having your own life, your own focus, your own emotional center. When you're not always there, she feels your absence, and absence creates awareness. She notices you more when you're not constantly present. She wonders about you when you're not always available, and that wondering is attraction in motion. Most men are afraid of that. They think if they step back, she'll lose interest.